There. Now, I gave your pond the weekend off.
Right, okay, so here we go. So you've got a bit of a lip on that.
Around here somewhere.
Brake pads are pretty worn. They have to be replaced soon anyway. So it's good that we're doing the whole lot now. I think it looks okay under it. You know what? This looks almost identical to my old Rover Metro setup. Exactly the same. 2 Phillips bolts holding these discs. These can be a pain. We've got to make sure we get these an impact driver on them. 2 guide pins. These can seize and wear one side the other. So I've got to take those out, clean the guides. A bit more involved than my one. And then obviously copper grease it up, and then obviously unbolt the caliper again. That's exactly kind of the same as the Battle Bus, different design, but same thing. So let's get these pads out first, and then we'll try and get these out. Now these can be an absolute nightmare, so fingers crossed. You know, when I said looks like, it's identical. Even a 12mm bolt up here is identical. The pads I'm pretty sure are identical too. Both have even wear. A good sign that none of these guide pins have seized. Now that one's free. Oh, hang on. Oh, that one's quite tight. Right, so we're going to pull these out. And we're going to re-grease them, give them a clean, and put them back in. So I'm going to get these out. Yep, so they came straight out. They do have a good bit of grease on it. Some people put these back and don't grease them. So I'm going to clean them up and put some more grease back in and put them back in a minute. But first we'll take this caliper carrier off so we can get this disc off. Okay, so that's the carrier out. That's where the guide pins slide inside a hole in there. So it's a little bit different design to mine, but as I say, this is exactly the same as my old Rover Metro. So I remember these. Sometimes if you don't clip these back in, these rubbers over the pins properly, water gets in, they seize, and you only end up with one pad pressing against the disc, the side that the piston's on. So yeah, everything's copper greased up quite nicely. So someone has been looking at, they've even copper greased the front of this as well, and the threads. So yeah, well looked after, should be very happy. Now that's out of the way, we've got to get this disc off. Now these can be an absolute pain, so wish me luck. So good and bad news. No dramas. They came straight out. Didn't de-thread them, didn't have to drill them out. I have done that, had to do that in the past. But unfortunately the disc is already off. This means no man tools or extraction pullers or fire. Oh, I like fire. So, good news, we have the right disc, always worth checking. However, I just want to compare. Vented though, impressive for such a small car. I just want to compare to the Battle Bus.
Puny discs. Puny.
Okay, so I've remounted the caliper carrier, greased the guide pins, they're nice and good, make sure the rubbers go all the way to the end so no water can get inside. Now I'm going to grease up the pads. I'm not going to rely on the anti-squirrel membrane on it. Copper grease is the way forward. Unlike my one, this doesn't clip inside the piston. It basically just slides in the caliper, and when you bolt the caliper on top, that's what holds the brake pads in. So there is no, it's very easy to put in. It doesn't actually clip inside the center bore there like on my car. So it's a slightly different way of doing it. That stops the anti-rattling on that side, and you've got anti-rattle shims going across as well. So I'm going to grease them up, stick them in, bolt it back, and then this side will be done. Very straightforward so far. Normally things always go well for the captain, but even I get suspicious in the universe when it all goes extremely well all the time. I've not had a single drama so far. Huh. And there you go. That's the pads in there. Just got to drop the caliper over it. 2 bolts, done. And there we go, all done. Put the wheel back on, we move to the other side. Okay, so that is the front discs done on said Honda Jazz. Now, she wants me to have a look at the drums. Now, drums very rarely go wrong. So I'm going to jack it up now, and we'll have a look at the rear drums.
You know, I said everything was going well. Right, so I've taken the back wheel off of the Jazz that I'm working on. It isn't drums, it's actually disc. It's just the profile of the disc is so small, it looked like there was a drum through the narrow aperture of the wheels. However, I haven't got any rear brake pads and discs for the back of this car, because I was only going to clean out the inside of the drums because they don't ever go wrong. However, on closer inspection, there's an issue.
The issue being, you have no brake pads left and you're grinding the disc.
Captain says this is very bad news. So my friendly little monkeys are now scurrying around on a bank holiday Saturday, attempting to get parts for me. In the meantime, where is my beer? Now, I gave Le Pom the weekend off, but Jessie, pizza girl, should be around here somewhere. She better get a move on. Timing is never her strong suit. It's so hard to find good help these days. If anyone wants to volunteer to help the captain pour his ale, feel free to send me a message at the end of this video. Excellent news. Parts are on the way. They should be here shortly for the Jazz.
In anticipation, I've removed the caliper. The only difference is to the front, it's got the handbrake on it. So, good thing about an auto is when it's in park, it can't roll forward. But I've obviously safety first as well, and I've chopped the front wheels. So, I've got to take the disc off. As you can see, it's past it, as we suspected. Look at that. Nothing left of it on the backs. So, as soon as the new parts get here, I'll be ready to bolt the new ones on. The rear caliper is slightly different to the front, whereas I've got to rotate it back in as well, as opposed to just press. Lucky my piston mine back tool can actually do that as well. Again, it's exactly the same as one of my old cars, so nothing I haven't seen before.
So the parts have turned up. I've done one side already. However, we've got a problem with the near side rear. And it's a problem I've encountered many times before. Time to get the drill.
Okay, so here's the problem. These two are on too tight. As you can see, I've taken the heads off them. It is also on so tight, it has destroyed my socket too. So they are in there completely and utterly. They will never come out. So I'm going to have to drill those out right now. Fun and games. Time to get the drill.
At least I got some kind of power tool out today.
As you can see, with a hell of a lot of drilling later, got the disc off. Now I've got the remnants of the old bolts in here, so I need to drill a small hole down the middle and try and tap these out. Lucky for me, even though I haven't got these, all these bolts do is hold the disc in place and the wheel's not there. So with the wheel on it, and obviously the pads on it as well, it's not going to go anywhere. The wheel actually holds the disc in place. So even though I haven't got spares of these, I can put these in at a later date. It won't affect the car in any way. So we can order some of those up after the bank holiday. And I've just got to pop the wheel off, put two bolts in, and then put the wheel back on. It'll take about, what, a minute. As I say, this has happened to me quite a lot before on my old Metro, and what a surprise, it's exactly the same system. Although I have to say, normally I take the heads off before it bends my socket, but it took the head off it and bent my socket. So these are in here forever unless I drill them out. And there you go. Threads are okay. So I can put those two bolts when we get them from a motor factor back in when everything reopens. Okay, so this side of the car clearly has got some issues. So I took off the old pad. Have a look. You see that? It's got diagonal wear on the pad. So remember what I was saying earlier about guide pins getting stuck? If you have a look, you see the difference. That one's extended. That one is jammed. Moves, it doesn't, well, moves in a little bit, but it doesn't come back out. So we're going to take those out and give them a good clean and see if we can get this into working order again. Okay, so I filed down the inside, taken them all out, cleaned it with some penetrating spray and re-greased them all with copper grease. And there we go. That's how you fixed a seized guide pin.
Okay, so situation report. the Jazz is now done. Front and rear discs now have been fitted. Now all that's left is to test it. And don't forget, it's not my car, so I've got to be very careful when I test it. Very careful. Okay, so bit of an update. So went for the test drive, drove it to St Albans and back, which is an A road, and probably a good couple of miles, no problem. Had a small rattle, wasn't really too much of an issue. Went to the shops, got some beer, came back, jacked up the car. The moment I pulled into my driveway, before I jacked up the car, an ABS warning light came on. The whole test drive, nothing came up at all. Nothing at all. Checked it up. Anti-rattle shim that I hadn't put on properly. Fixed that. Anti-rattle shim wouldn't affect an ABS system at all. Went out on the drive. Perfect. No noises, no nothing. Yet the ABS doesn't work. And I confirmed this by going down the country lane and locking up all the wheels. So at the moment, I've disconnected the battery for 15 minutes to clear the fault code and see if that fixes it. What it could be at this point, I don't know. However, the ABS system is way inside the hub, away from any brake discs and anything that I touched. And the brakes work perfectly. So, watch this space. Right, so I'm back in the battle bus. It's a glorious day. And I'm just about to do her test drive. I just want to say to Victoria, who drove my car in the driveway yesterday after I had a few beers, you didn't readjust my seat. That's not very nice. You know, my legs are a little bit longer than yours. Anyway, I'll give you an update on the Jazz when we find out what the issue is. But in the meantime, I'll close this video out with my usual stay safe, Captain out.